Welcome back to the preview show. I'm Casey Campbell. That's of course Nathan Salma, of course, the managing editor of the Podium Finish. Have to get that title in there now. How's it going, bud?
It's going. I don't know what I've done to myself to deserve being on the preview show for 2 weeks in a row, but here I am.
You're a legend. Sooner or later, you'll be exactly like the Jonathan Fiel and Mitchell Brewer.
No.
You're not from Minnesota. You're from New York. But anyway, there's been a lot of things to talk about this week. Lots of news, especially within the last few hours. Let's get your reaction to this. Noah Gragson I know you didn't watch the Xfinity race, but Noah Gregson's, of course, received the penalty for the incident with Sage Karam that took out a bunch of cars. Fined $35,000, 30 owner points, 30 driver points. After what happened, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, like I mentioned, I didn't watch the Xfinity race. I couldn't watch it, but I've certainly seen the incident and a lot of times and watched all the reactions to it and everything. Good on NASCAR. Like they dropped the hammer on him and they made it clear that they're not going to tolerate anything like that. Like they're not going to tolerate intentionally wrecking cars. Like I know that Gragson's intention was to probably spin Sage Karam out. I know his intention probably wasn't to wad up the whole field, but that's what happened. And you don't want to tear up race cars, period, but you especially don't want to do it in the Xfinity series in that part of the field where there's a lot of underfunded cars in there. There's a lot of cars that really cannot afford to tear up race cars like that. Like when you look at some of those underfunded teams, like a lot of those one-car teams, they only have one road course chassis. And
Right.
You look at the schedule here, in a couple of weeks, they're back at Indianapolis road course. So, that's a pretty quick turnaround time for them to have to really tear everything down and build everything back up. So, there's, Brandon Brown, Myatt Snyder, the Alpha Prime cars were in there. Those are teams that don't have, endless money like Junior Motorsports. And again, that's not a diss to Junior Motorsports whatsoever. I mean, they obviously, it's Dale Jr., they have a lot of money. And, but good on NASCAR for making it abundantly clear that they're not going to tolerate that whatsoever. Hopefully Noah will learn from that. I think that incident kind of shows that he has a little bit more maturing that he has to do before he's completely cup ready. In terms of his driving abilities, I think he is cup ready, but it's just making sure that all that, that mental stuff, the kind of off on track stuff, making sure that you can kind of piece all aspects of being a race car driver together before you go up to cup. So, good on NASCAR for making it clear. $35,000 is a pretty big fine for the Xfinity series. So hopefully that shows to everybody in really all three major NASCAR series that, NASCAR's they're not going to tolerate that.
Right. Yeah, you kind of talk about, the maturity side of things and all that. Well, let's go to another driver that made headlines in that race. Of course, the guy who won, Ty Gibbs. Of course, we know he's been in a few of those incidents this year, and he did the complete opposite of what happened there. But Ty getting that win, battling Kyle Larson. Once again, I know you didn't watch the race, but I'm pretty sure you saw the finish. Well, this is I think a lot of people's opinions changed on Ty.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think a lot of people knew right away, he wins his first Xfinity series race and a course that he has basically no like experience on whatsoever, the Daytona Road Course back last year. I think everybody knew right there, like, this kid can drive. So, I mean, I don't think that it really, seeing him beat Larson like that really changed my opinion. I think it affirmed or reaffirmed my position on him that, not next year, but in 2024, there's probably an 80 to 90% chance that we're going to see him in the Cup Series. He's pretty close to Cup ready right now. Again, I think kind of similar to Noah. I think he has a little bit more maturing to do. But in terms of his talent level, he's a cup level talent, and beating the defending champion like that definitely showed. Kind of alternatively though, I don't really know how he became such a good road course racer, because like half of his Xfinity wins are on road courses. Daytona Road Course, Watkins Glen, Road America, and I know I'm missing one more too. Which one am I missing?
Watkins Glen. Are you talking about the ones he won on?
Road courses, yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know. Anyway, I thought I was missing one of his Xfinity road course wins, but this kid can drive on road courses. So, good for him. Obviously, he's showing he belongs. Kind of his first win in a little while. I forgot when his last win was.
Richmond, and it was the race that you were at.
Yeah, Richmond. I forgot if he had won since then. So
Yeah.
it's been a few months since he won a race. But Tiger is back in the victory circle. Obviously, he's still one of the favorites to win that championship. So good on him.
Yeah, of course, he'll be returning to a race that he won at earlier this year in Atlanta. We'll get to that later on. How about that Cup race? Tyler Reddick getting his first win at Road America. Big statement win. I know a lot of people enjoyed some free chicken tenders, but the question was not if, but when, and we finally got that answer this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. It was seriously just a matter of time until Tyler Reddick won a NASCAR Cup Series race. It looked like back in April he was going to win that Bristol Dirt race. Obviously, Chase Briscoe had different plans there, but good on him. I mean, obviously, kind of going into the 2024 season, we're looking at him potentially being one of the hottest prospects out there in terms of kind of the silly season picture. We're really not looking at a whole lot of Cup Series movement for next season, but for the year after, we are looking at a ton of movement. Tyler Reddick's going to be probably the hottest driver out there, if you will. I mean, just about everybody except for maybe Hendrick and well, I don't even know about JGR, depending on what they could look like, but I think really just about everybody but Hendrick is going to be taking a serious look at Tyler Reddick to put him in their race car. So big win there in terms of the race overall. I wasn't thrilled with the race, obviously. I think Road America is a great race in the sense that it brings so many fans out. Like that's probably one of the highest attended races all year. So I think that race certainly served its purpose in that regard, but really not a lot of great racing in the Cup Series event. Obviously no cautions for incidents, not a whole lot of passing. Like really the top 10 stayed the top 10 the whole race. Chase Elliott, I don't think left the top 2 except for the pit cycle. Kyle Larson, I don't think he left the top 3 or top 5 except for the pit cycle. So again, not a whole lot of passing, but a memorable finish for sure. I mean, certainly didn't come down to the wire, but memorable seeing Tyler Reddick get that first win for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that Road America has been in the news lately of the future with them in NASCAR is uncertain. I know Road America hosts now a lot of races. I would assume Road America has a NASCAR presence, if whether or not the Cup Series is there or not. I would still think the Xfinity Series would still find a way to be there. I think it was their 13th or 14th race there, so we'll have to see. But that kind of leads into the news that just broke a few hours ago. This obviously has not been confirmed yet by NASCAR or anything like that, but a letter that has been obtained by the Athletics' Jordan Bianchi, and he reports that the Chicago Street Course is actually going to be a possibility and a real thing for the next 3 years. A deal will be possibly announced on July 19th. So all the talks about this Chicago Street Course, it's actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, NASCAR kind of hyped up 2023 as the big year where they're going to make really a big schedule overhaul, and this is certainly a very significant move if it happens. NASCAR has really never had a street course race in this era. Obviously, kind of when you look at old time NASCAR, like original OG NASCAR, if you will. I mean, street courses was basically where it was at. They didn't have these big super speedways and everything back in like the 50s and 60s, but in the modern era, it'll be the first NASCAR street course race. And I'm a little on the fence of it because, kind of like what I was telling you before we started recording this, street course races typically are flat. And as you've seen, these next gen cars and even the Gen 6 cars, they don't really perform well on flat tracks. I know this next gen car is supposed to be a road course car. We've seen pretty decent road course races so far. But that concerns me, the fact that it'll be a pretty flat track. And B, when you kind of look at F1 or IndyCar, when you look at these street course races, there's really not a whole lot of passing anyway. So I don't think it's going to be a phenomenal race if it happens. But at the same time, I also think it'll be another tremendous opportunity to grow the fan base, to get, I think it can kind of make the same impact that the LA Clash did, kind of reach a new demographic in a big city, get a lot of first-time NASCAR fans or first-time fans, first-time race goers to the track or to the circuit for the first time. So I think it could be really successful in that sense. In terms of getting rid of Road America, again, it has its pros and cons to that race as well. Like, I don't love that that's a 4-mile racetrack. it's certainly hard for fans to watch the race, even though there's a
Right.
ton of fans there. And I don't think the product was overly great this year. But like I said, again, there's so many people there. I'm personally not a huge fan of Coda for on the NASCAR side of things. I'm not a huge fan of Sonoma.
Right.
Obviously, those are SMI races, so they're not really going to go anywhere. But they're probably gonna have a decision to make. I don't think that they're going to increase their road course numbers for next year. So my guess, most likely, Road America would come at the expense of the Chicago street course. But would it completely surprise me if they kept both? No, but also at the same time, just something else to think about here. What if Indianapolis went back to the oval?
That's an interesting thing. And also,
Because remember, the next gen cars, they race a lot better on these bigger tracks. So I think going back to the oval could be a possibility, and ditch the road course altogether there.
well, you remember Indianapolis is this, the flat racetracks again. So obviously we've seen, what this car has done at Phoenix. I know people weren't happy about what happened there. Many people weren't happy about what they saw at Richmond. It got better when it went to
But remember, the speeds are a lot different at Indianapolis.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So it's just a matter of time. But I don't know if you. I don't know. The thing is, they're going to keep evolving this car. They're not. It's not going to be like, oh, we're going to say set in our ways. I don't think you're going to see that with this car, because I think they know this is the car of the future, and they have to. This is going to be around for a while. So. We'll have to see. I don't know. I don't know when Gen 8's going to come out. So who knows? It'll be interesting. Of course, all that will more details will come with the potential Chicago street course later on in a few weeks. But let's get to this weekend. We don't have one dates. Two separate tracks we're running on. Let's start with the Cup and Xfinity. Well, let's start with the race I'm going to this weekend. Of course, that's MidOhio, the ARCA Menard Series, but we've already talked about that series on another show. Trucks are going to be at MidOhio this weekend. Only 2 races left until the playoffs. I know you're actually going to be at the cutoff race at Pocono, which will be on Big Fox. 2 races left. It looks like guys are still trying to get in. When I last read, Grant Enfinger 39 above the cutoff. Crafton's, I believe, 29 above. And then you got guys like you guys got Derek Kraus is probably the closest around. It's 29 behind the cutoff line. He could point his way in, but he's gonna have to win. Then you got guys like Tyler Ankara, Matt DiBenedetto, and Tanner Gray, who are probably gonna have to win to get in. We could see some craziness at MidOhio.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, Pocono is the cutoff race where anything can happen. Obviously, right now the cutoff line isn't particularly close. I mean, Derek Kraus is in 11th, like you mentioned, 29 points back. Certainly not to that certainly could get a lot closer. You never know what could happen if Grant Enfinger has a bad day, DNF. Matt Craft has a DNF. All of a sudden, that playoff picture becomes really interesting. Or like you mentioned, if someone else kind of pulls out a victory here, if Kraus wins a race, or if Ankrum wins or the Benedetto wins, and all of a sudden, like that really it kind of flips the whole playoff picture upside down, at least towards the in terms of the cutoff. Like obviously only 6 drivers are clinched officially at 5 on victories. So Zane Smith, Ben Rhodes, John Hunter, Chandler Smith, Stuart Friesen. Ty Majeski is clinched on points. Right. Carson Hocevar, Christian Eckes, they are both well above the cut line. It would literally take like something catastrophic.
Yeah, disaster.
To make it. So really it's Grant Enfinger and Matt Craft that are really still in that bubble. So again, if one of those two have a bad day, if they have a DNF, certainly anything can happen. Make that cutoff line a lot closer, or if someone kind of comes out of nowhere, one of those full-time drivers, right, or even someone like a Lawless Allen or a Dean Thompson or something, if one of those guys go out and win a race, or Jack Wood or even Haley Deegan, if one of those guys go out and win that race, remember that would clinch them into the playoffs, assuming they stay in the top 30, which they will.
Yeah.
So I think that's the beauty of the NASCAR playoffs, because you look at it 2 races before the cutoff and you say, oh, it's not very close. And then all of a sudden one thing happens and it leads to another. And then all of a
Right.
sudden you got a really close battle there. So new track for them should be interesting.
Yeah, talked with Craig Russ, the track president at MidOhio. They are really excited to have the trucks there this weekend. I know a lot of people were, mad that the Xfinity Series is not there. Of course, they went to Portland, but yeah, I think they're gonna, from what I've been told, from that crowd, they are really gonna love what the trucks offer this weekend. And here's another note that I think a lot of people are not getting: Grant Enfinger, Matt Crafton, and Derek Kraus all have new crew chiefs this week. So, of course, Jeff Hensley comes from the 88 team to Grant from Grant Enfinger's team. I believe Matt Crafton's got a new crew chief. Derek Kraus has Grant Enfinger's old crew chief, Charles Danke. So it's going to be an interesting thing with how that's going to be. So another interesting storyline to watch. Plus, you also got Parker Kligerman's in the race. Justin Marks is also in the race as well. In the 41 truck. So, of course, he won in that famous rain race at MidOhio back in 2016 in the Xfinity Series. So he'll be in a 5th Nice truck. So that will be exciting. And it was just announced that Dillon Lupton will be in the 7 truck for Spire. So that will that'll be interesting. Plus, you got a bunch of other. Plus, you got all people in there. Corey Heim will be in the 51. Of course, he won at Watkins Glen in an ARCA car. So. Yeah, it's a lot of guys. About 5 guys are going to be in the ARCA race from the truck race because trucks have never been there before. So it'll be interesting to see that there. But then the Xfinity and Cup Series will be in Atlanta this weekend. The Atlanta Super Speedway, as I like to call it, or as many like to call it. What do you think of? Where are we going to expect from Atlanta Day, as some people like to call it too?
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting race on the Cup Series side. It's really the first race of the second half of the season. And this is also the first time the next gen car is returning to a track for the second time.
Forgot about that.
So interested to see if there'll be any noticeable or significant changes from the first time to the second time. We'll really see how much guys are making gains on really where they were from the first time. So I think that'll kind of give us a picture when we kind of go to or a better picture when we go to some of these tracks for a second time here in the second half of the season. So I mean, I think they're gonna be entertaining. I don't know if they're necessarily gonna put on the best show or the best race, but it's gonna be entertaining. I'll tell you that. Xfinity, I'm expecting they'll put on a good race. They had a pretty good race there in the spring. So hopefully all the cars stay on 4 wheels and they put on a good show.
Yeah, I always hope the cars stay on all 4 wheels. So. All right, we've gotten to that point in the show. It's time for the picks. Of course, let's start with we start with ARCA, but we won't go there this time. Let's start with trucks at MidOhio. Of course, the first time the trucks will be at MidOhio. Cannot tell you how excited I am to be down there. Actually, this is the first truck race I've been to since 2020 at Michigan. So. And first truck race, I'll actually be able to go down in the pits and all that because that was, of course, during COVID. So I'm excited to go down to MidOhio for the first time. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with John Hunter Nemechek. I think when you look at where he was last year versus this year, last year he had 5 wins at this point of the season. This year he only has 1, but he's really been in the mix just about every week. He's been a top 5, top 7 truck really every time, with the exception of those first couple of races of the season. So I think he's due for another victory. He's certainly still one of the top championship favorites. I think he's been there before, so that certainly gives him a bit of an advantage there. He's one of the more experienced racers. He can adapt a little bit better. I'll go with John Hunter.
Yeah, and also, of course, KBM's tough to stop. And another note about John Hunter, he'll be in the ARCA race as well in the 55 for Venturini Motorsports. So he'll be, and definitely will be, one of the favorites to win that race. Of course, that will be at 5 p.m. on FS1. So going to be an interesting race there. A lot of truck guys are going to be in there. So also you'll see Stanton Barrett in there in a fast track car. Just, I don't know. Everyone talks about him for a while. He was big in the 2000s, so I figured mention him. So for me, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to be expected with this. MidOhio typically runs like a short track. So a lot of nuances. There's going to be a lot of rubber there with all the different series that are going to be there. Is 3 different types of tire with the Cooper tires that the USF juniors are going to run there. You got the general tires for the ARCA Menard series, and then the trucks are running, of course, the Goodyears. So that'll be an interesting thing. And also the other interesting thing we didn't talk about with this race, no live pit stops, similar to what the Xfinity series did at Portland. The trucks will do at MidOhio. So that's going to be interesting as well. I'm going to take Justin Marks this time around. I'm 5th in the standings. I'm just going to throw the kitchen sink at it.
Gotta throw a few Hail Marys.
Yeah. Well, you do too. So
hey, I'm not totally out of it. I'm less than 100 points back here.
Yeah, you are less than 100 points. It's Mitchell and Jonathan that are all the way up there, but I need to get back in the standings. Oh, maybe it's better if I don't win. So I don't know. Since I do all the tallying. So it's I'm gonna go with Justin Marks. Throw the kitchen sink at it. Sorry, Taylor Kitchen, but of course she'll be there as well. So it's kind of talk about that. Of course, she'll be there with Stephen Conley with TPF. So that'll be fun. Let's go to Xfinity in Atlanta. Who you got?
This is a huge wild card race. This driver hasn't really had the season he's wanted to yet, but this team is always very strong on these types of racetracks. They're strong on super speedway races, super speedway-like races. I'm going to go with Daniel Hemrick to secure his first win of the season, his second NASCAR victory, or his second Xfinity Series victory, obviously the first coming in the championship last year to win the championship.
Yeah.
But he's due. Like I said, he's kind of had a little bit of a down year, but the talent's certainly there. I think he'll be able to wheel that thing to victory lane.
Yeah, that would be huge for that team, really, because Colleague has not had the best year in the Xfinity Series. I know AJ's got a couple wins so far this year, but besides that, not a good year for those guys. So be big to see Daniel Hemrick win. But you know what I got to do? I got to stick with the Gibbs. I got to take Ty Gibbs. Ty's won 7 races, but none of them have gone back to back. That changes this weekend. So Ty Gibbs is going back to back wins this weekend. Of course, he won there in the spring. He's going to win there in the summer. I guess people like to call it the fall. Who knows? It's there. All right. Time for Cup time in Atlanta. Let's start off. Who you got, Nathan?
Regardless of who wins this week, well, not really regardless, but I think that we see another first-time winner here in 2020, or a new winner in 2022. Not really first-time winner, but a new winner in 2022. And there's several pretty good super speedway racers or super speedway style racers that haven't gotten a win yet. Like you look at Ryan Blaney, you look at Bubba Wallace, you look at Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I think there's a really good chance one of those 3 guys could go to victory lane. I will stick with Ryan Blaney here on this one. He's won races at Daytona. He's won races at Talladega. He's won races at Old Atlanta. Now he's going to win a race at New Atlanta here.
Yeah.
On Sunday. So I'll go with Ryan Blaney. We'll have our 14th winner with 7 races to go in the regular season.
That's going to be that is something. Now we have 13 winners. We might go to 14. We could get to 16. Everyone thinks that, are we going to get to 16? I think this is the best shot I think we got, because we're 9 races. I think we have 9 races left, if I'm not mistaken.
It already is. I think we had 13 last year in the regular season, or I think 14 including AJ. I think winning at Indy. So
yeah, and I think it was 15 because Bubba won in the playoffs. So
15 total. Yep.
So it'll be. I think this is the year. I think we go get above 16. So it'll be fun for sure. Well, I know I talked about I'm going to the racetrack this week. You're going to have a pretty few busy weeks the next after this weekend, because you're going to be back at the track the next 2 weeks after this weekend at New Hampshire and at Pocono with the podium finish.
Yeah, super excited for that. I mean, I've been to 3 Cup races this year, covered 2 of them. Well, 1.5 of them because Dover got rained out, but still bitter about that. I know. But no, I'm really excited to cover some more races here for TPF. Got a lot of stuff coming. I mean, certainly, Pocono is gonna be a crazy weekend. All 4 touring series are gonna be there. Obviously, the truck cutoff race. Then up at New Hampshire, obviously, just Cup and Xfinity as well as the always fun Well and Modified Tour. So it should be good. Should be 2 good weekends. Excited to get back up to Well, New Hampshire, first time venue for me. Never been there before, and then get to Pocono where I covered my first race last year. So super pumped.
Always fun to go back to the place that your career started. So fun stuff there. I know that and one more thing, kind of tease a little bit interview that we did. We interviewed the person that's going to be one of your photographers that's going to be with you, Sam Dreiss, of course, which you'll see later once I upload the interview. What's he like? Because he's got a pretty interesting story. What's he like to be around?
Yeah, he's awesome, man. I mean, we've already shot, or we've already worked together twice this year. We worked together at Dover. We worked together a few weeks ago at the Salem 6 Hours at the Glen. And now for my next two NASCAR race, we're gonna be together again. So it should be a lot of fun. It was fun working with him a lot. So man, he is a heck of a photographer. He certainly gives me some great images to use on Twitter and for my story. So super excited to use more of his work.
Yeah, I mean, you got 40 photographers to choose from. I know Rob's built a pretty good team over there at TPF, and they're all reaching the top of the podium. That was for you, Rob. All right. Of course, stay tuned for TPF, and you can hear them joke about me and my love for ARCA. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's going to do it for this week. For Nathan Solomon, I'm Casey Campbell. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, enjoy Atlanta this week, and we'll talk to you to preview New Hampshire. You never know who will be right now. We'll be over there.